Something weird about that.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and I'd just like to thank Frontier School Division for their support and hosting this event today. We have a very exciting talk with Nancy Janelle and David Zeinerberg. They're going to be talking about the Met School, and I think you're in for a treat. I had the opportunity to tour the Met School a couple of years ago, and it's very interesting. And so we welcome Nancy and David to provide us with their information.
Thank you. Good morning, and welcome to the Mern Forum. I'm Nancy Janelle. I'm the acting principal of the Seven Oaks Met School. And I just wanted to start by giving you a little bit of kind of history about how I got to this place. So about 9 years ago, when I was in the Faculty of Education, I decided to become a teacher because I was really passionate about social justice issues. And as I started doing my practicums, I realized that the way a regular high school was structured just didn't feel like it was, it didn't feel holistic to me. And so one of my professors had told me about this school down in the States called the Met School, which followed a big picture philosophy, which is a very holistic way of looking at education. And I thought it was absolutely the best thing that had ever happened. And so I was obviously very disappointed that no such thing existed in Winnipeg. Then, in my final year of education, I was so lucky that the Seven Oaks School Division decided to open up a Met School. And so David and I were hired right from the very beginning, so we've been with the Met School since it started. We were two of the original 3 advisors back when we opened 7 years ago. So we're going to share a little bit about our school and what we've been doing. Okay, so what is a Met School? About 20 years ago, there were 2 educators down in the States, Elliot and Dennis, who were having a lot of trouble with their student population in terms of graduation rates and in terms of people dropping out. And so the Department of Education in Rhode Island gave these 2 educators kind of carte blanche to start from scratch with education. And so they were given the opportunity to restructure a school, doing it however they wanted to. And so when they really started thinking about what was important for students, what would keep them in school, and what would help them to graduate and increase the graduation rates, they realized there were 3 things that really mattered: relationships, relevance, and rigor. And it was through that that they developed the big picture philosophy. So the way these 3 R's work together, the relationship piece, and we'll get into the details of this a little bit more, is centered around a few key areas. So mentors in the community, advisors, parents, students, and advisory. And they realized the importance of relationships and keeping kids engaged and not letting kids slip through the cracks. And so we'll get into kind of how that advisory looks and feels. Also, they realized that if the work wasn't relevant to the students, they weren't going to be engaged in what they were doing. So how could they make the work relevant? And they also realized if the work was relevant, then the students would approach their work with rigor. So they decided that through kind of independent inquiry-based learning and through internships out in the community where they were doing real-world projects, hands-on work that they were passionate about, that was meaningful to them, that they would stay in school, they would love what they were doing, and they would graduate and then become successful members of the community. So it is framed around students' internships, around their interests, and around advisory. So now there are over 100 big picture schools around the world. We are the first one to open up in Canada. I heard that there's one maybe opening up in Calgary and one somewhere in the Maritimes, so maybe in the next year there'll be 3 big picture schools in Canada. And we were the first one, and here we are 7 years later. And we are going to play a little video. I think if you just click on that arrow. All right. They have since written a couple of books. I highly recommend that if you're interested in this philosophy that you can pick up these ones. We do have a bunch of copies at our school. If we want, we can lend them to you. Now, when we first opened 7 years ago, we were housed within Garden City Collegiate. We started with 3 classrooms, 3 advisors, David and I being 2 of those advisors, and 45 students. We've now grown, and we outgrew our school within Garden City Collegiate. We were taking up too much space, and so we were very lucky in September of this year to get our very own building. So next year in September, we will be at capacity with 8 teachers, 8 advisories, and 120 students. And there's 15 students per advisory. So we're very, very lucky to have our very own space and to continue to have the partnership with Garden City Collegiate, which is just across the street from us.
All right. So before we really get into the Met School and what it's all about and what makes it unique, it's really important to actually talk about what's the same. What's really, really important is to recognize that all of our students are leaving high school with the same diploma as everybody else in the province. That we've got honor roll, we've got the same opportunities for scholarships and bursaries. They have the same post-secondary education opportunities, and we've got students all over the province and outside the province doing a variety of things in post-secondary. And our school also provides all the same extracurricular activities. And one of the great things about being in Garden City Collegiate when we started and now just across the street from Garden City Collegiate is that our students can not only take advantage of the extracurriculars and clubs and activities that we provide, but they can also go across the street to Garden City and participate in anything over there. So if they want to participate in a sports team or intramurals or the school production, they're able to participate in all of that. In terms of credits, we follow the same system. Our students are taking English, math, science, social studies, and phys ed as core credits. They've got elective credits, and all of their credits are earned through a variety of ways. Our classes look very different. They have a lot of independent work time. They're designing their own projects. It's very project heavy. As Nancy mentioned earlier, there is an internship component, a real world component, and their electives and core credits are met through all of those things, as well as some regular coursework that looks and feels like it would in many other high schools. Our students are also able to take band and choir. Because of our size, we lean on Garden City for this support as well, so our students can walk across the street and participate in all of their band and choir activities and classes, as well as some of the grade 11 and 12 sciences. Some of our students want a more traditional approach to that depending on their path, and so they can enroll in biology, physics, and chemistry. We do also offer those in-house. It's a choice that our students can make. And so that partnership with Garden City is very important to us. And that's some of the stuff that really demonstrates that we're the same. What's really different is their journey towards that diploma at the end. And we're going to get into some of what is different now.
Okay, advisory. This is one of the real key components that makes Met School really different than a traditional high school. And this really ties in heavily to that relationship piece that Elliot and Dennis realized was so important to keeping kids engaged and keeping them connected to school. With advisory, when students start in grade 9, they're placed with 15 other students with their advisor, and they stay with that advisor and that advisory for all 4 years of their high school. So really you become a family, right? You're a family, you're home away from home. And just like regular families, there's ups and downs because you get to know each other so very well. But people look out for each other, they care for each other, and it's really quite a neat experience. I'll just give you a little example. 2 weekends ago, one of our grade 11 students just turned 17, and he had a birthday party at his house, and his whole advisory, I think there were 2 kids who couldn't make it because they had to work, but they were all at his birthday party. So they really do become a tight-knit community and a source of support. And if someone's having trouble, the other advisory members are there for them. One of the really neat things that we found now moving into our very own space. Before we were a small school housed inside this gigantic school of 1,400 kids. So our Met School kids would get really diluted within this larger population of Garden City Collegiate. And often they didn't know all the other kids in the other advisories because we didn't have a common space where Met School kids could come together. Now that we've opened up our brand new building and we have a great room, and we use this great room for our breakfast program and at lunch, and it's just like a general common area. And we're finding that the interaction now between advisories is so strong. The other thing that we've done now that we've moved into our own space, we've developed our own Facebook page. And we have students, obviously from all grade levels who follow our Facebook page. And it's just really neat to see a grade 12 student comment on something that a grade 9 student is doing, or grade 9 for the grade 12, vice versa. It's not a cliquey school. At lunchtime, when you walk into the common area, you'll see grade 9s and 12s sitting together. So it's a really warm, welcoming, forgiving environment. People, the students, I genuinely feel that they feel like they can be themselves in our school. And part of that is because of this advisory. Everybody knows each other so well that anything goes. It's very, very accepting environment. And you can see just from some of these pictures, some of the things as an advisory that you can do together. We like to eat together when we can. Eating food together is a great bonding experience. Fundraising, there's some pizza sales that we've done for graduation, going out into the community and volunteering together. That was at the Christmas cheer board. Doing art projects together, and here in the top right was a class trip to visit a student at their internship placement. So we try to really build on what other students are doing and expose the other students in the advisory to other internships and other projects.
All right. So one of the most exciting parts about the Met School is the internship program, and this is where things really start to look and feel different. Other schools, you'll see some business programs that have an internship component, and they might get a week away where they work somewhere instead of coming to school for the week, or maybe a couple of weeks. We do it all year long for all 4 grades of high school. In grade 9, we start with some basic teaching for the first 6 weeks or so, where we're talking to them about how to write a professional resume, how to write a cover letter, how to handle yourself in an interview or make a cold call to somebody that you don't know. And we really teach them a lot about finding work. How do you find a job? And once they're ready, usually roughly around mid-October, late October, our internship program starts. And from there, right through to grade 12, every Tuesday and Thursday of the school year, they're working on internships. So they're looking for their own internships. They're calling their own places, setting up interviews, going and meeting with potential mentors, job shadowing for a day or two. And once they find a really solid mentor and a really solid workplace that matches their interests and their needs as a learner, they get to go there twice a week instead of coming to the school. And so they do really real world learning. You can see here that it's connected to a career exploration credit. So all of our students are in career exploration for 4 years of high school. They walk out of high school not just with that Manitoba diploma, but they've got really strong resumes, really strong references, and lots of great experiences, and in many cases, employment. We've had plenty of summer jobs come from this, and we've had some career positions come from this as well after graduation. From some of the pictures, you can see that the variety is limitless. The students tell us what they want to do. We don't tell them where to go. So you can see in the pictures, we've got a scientist working at a lab at Red River College. We've got working at a pet store, on the radio, under the hood of a car, making a documentary film at Shaw or with Shaw's support, or working with animals. And that's just the beginning. We have students doing all sorts of things. And just to tell a really quick story about some of the successes we've had and just how amazing some of the experiences can be. A number of years ago, when I was in my second year teaching grade 9, we had a student who came and said he wanted to be a rapper. He wanted to be a hip hop artist, and that's all he knew and all he wanted to do. And he went to, at the time, Streets FM, a local hip hop radio station. We met with the programming manager. She said, there's no way we can let a grade 9 student do an internship here. We deal with Academy of Broadcasting. We deal with Red River College. We'll let you come in. You can sit in on the morning show. We'll let you watch it for one day, and it'll be a really neat experience, but that's all we can provide. She then went on to say, and by the way, you need to get here at 5 in the morning because that's when we start. He said, okay, I'll be there. And he went 5 in the morning to Streets FM. He sat in the corner quiet between segments. They would chat, they would talk about things. They had a Red River College student there interning as well on the morning show. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, the programming manager called me in the classroom and said, can we keep him for 3 months? And he's gone on now. He's no longer hip hop as a career, but he's got a few albums out there on the internet that he is in fact selling and doing really, really well with. And he's in school right now becoming a computer programmer, making video games. So it started with that amazing experience, and it really speaks to how important that real world learning can be for them. And I guess the video will this video work? Should we skip this video as well? No? Okay. So
All right. So we kind of talked about how Tuesdays and Thursdays look at the Met School, which is basically empty at the school because everybody is out in the community and all over the place. So if you come visit us on a Tuesday or Thursday, there's essentially nobody there unless they're in between internships. But back on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, when we have all the students back, there are a number of different things going on. First of all, we do math Monday, Wednesday, Fridays in a really traditional way. In our first year, we tried incorporating math into the independent inquiry-based learning model, but we found with the provincial exam in grade 12 that it really was a course that we had to teach in a more traditional way. And so after the first year, we moved to that model. So we have 4 periods in a day on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. One other period that's more traditional is that phys ed period. Students have to do phys ed all the way to grade 12 now, so they have a traditional phys ed class where they go across the street to Garden City where they have a large gymnasium and we have a gym teacher there. The other 2 periods of the day are really where it highlights the uniqueness of Met School. So students are working on independent inquiry-based projects. We call them school-based projects. They're student-led, they're interest-driven, and it's through these projects. At the beginning of the year, we sit down, we have a one-on-one meeting with our students, we develop their learning plan for that trimester, and through that learning plan and looking at what they might be doing for internships and school-based projects, we develop and we decide on which elective credits they're going to be working towards for that school year. And so it's through these independent inquiry-based projects that students are really able to pursue their interests and their passions. So they're very cross-curricular projects. So one project, they might be earning, doing hours towards, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 different credits. So you can see just a variety of examples here of students doing different kinds of inquiry-based projects. And so we try to connect as much of the projects to the curriculum. And this is where, as a med school teacher, we really need to be a jack of all trades. Because not only do you have those kids from grade 9 to grade 12, but you're actually responsible for all curricular areas for each of those students. So you can imagine it's a lot of responsibility. So at the beginning of each year, we sit down, we review the curricular areas for that grade level. So it's always top of mind. And we go over those different curricular areas with our students at the beginning of the year so that they know these are their interests. These are kind of the curricular goals for this year. These are some of the electives I might be working towards. Now, how can we take all of these things and put them together and develop projects? So for example, Alina is one of our art students. She loves art. So she did this 4-piece art piece. It's actually phenomenal. She first drew the outline on the computer digitally, printed it on this really neat paper. She had the printing done at Staples, and then used watercolor to paint the piece of paper that she had drawn anyway, you can't really see in these images here, but how incredible they came out. Each of those images that she painted were tied to different curricular areas in the social studies curriculum. And then there was a written piece that went along with each of those art pieces. So she was able to combine her passion for art and her passion for some of these different subject areas into this incredible school-based project. So this is where so the other thing that happens sometimes on those Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, so they have this independent work time, there also are other areas that we found have been difficult to tie into independent inquiry-based projects. So what you might see if you come by on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday is maybe the teacher is taking first period to do part of the chemistry unit from grade 10, because they're just finding it's not being integrated into projects properly. Maybe they're taking that first period to do a class novel study or to do poetry to help prepare them for the grade 12 provincial exam. So that is kind of we do have a flex period in addition to the independent work period. All right. I don't know how good you can see this. It's a picture of a poster that we had created. This is just an example of, this was a grade 12 project, I believe, right?
I think this one was grade 11.
Grade 11?
12.
Grade 12, yeah. So we start with a student. I'm just going to kind of talk you through a project development. This was done by a student in grade 12. Her name was Anna McDonald. She came to the Met School in grade 9. She wanted to be a filmmaker right from the get-go. She knew what she wanted to do. All of her internships were at places like Shaw TV, Merit Motion Pictures, Freeze Frame Films, Film Manitoba. She basically explored every single film and media opportunity over those 4 years. Her resume when she graduated was unbelievable. Somebody called me because they thought it was fake. And I had to say, no, actually, she's really done all these things, and she's 17 years old. Like, it was unbelievable. In grade 11, she made a documentary film about refugees coming to Manitoba because her mom was a refugee from Guatemala. And that really sparked her interest in documentary filmmaking. One of the really neat things about the Met School is because the students have so much time to work on these independent projects, they can take their work to another level, what they wouldn't be able to do in a regular classroom. And then with that independent work period combined with those internship days, they're able to create some really amazing things. So in grade 12, actually, let me just back up. In grade 11, we took a group of social justice kids to Gordon Bell and to a human rights conference that was about Canadian mining companies. And when she learned about what was happening in the Congo, this really sparked her interest. She decided she really became passionate about this and she wanted to do something about this. So when she came back in grade 12 and we started forming our social justice club, she got a whole bunch of the students involved in social justice to have their school-based projects be focused all on one issue surrounding the Canadian mining companies in the Congo. So there were a number of students who worked on different core areas of this huge year-long project that we worked on together, and her component of it was making a documentary film. Another student worked on developing she planned and organized a big benefit concert, for example. So this was all of her, it's called the senior thesis project in grade 12. So instead of doing one small project, they do one large project. So she made a documentary film, No More Blood on Our Phones. She did Skype interviews with different ministers in Ottawa. It was just this incredible film. We showcased it at the Park Theatre at the end of the year. We had a really amazing turnout. We were able to do some fundraising, and we were able to donate the money to a local family. And so this is how we would connect it all together. So as she was looking at this, creating this film, there are 5 learning goals that we use when we're doing project planning at the Met School. And these goals are connected to the curriculum, but more in a subject manner, not in specific areas. So we have social reasoning, and that connects to our social studies curriculum, empirical reasoning, quantitative reasoning, communication, and personal qualities. So that connects to the science, the math, the English, and just personal qualities. So then we're able to look at these learning goals, what she was wanting to accomplish by making the documentary film. And then as her advisor, that was before I became principal, we were able to sit down and look at the curriculum and see how that we could tie this project into specific curricular areas and which electives that she would be working on for that year based on the project that she was working on. So this was all happening in September, right? We're planning this big year-long project and deciding what electives. So we were able to tie it into the global issues credit, into interdisciplinary topics in science, essential math, the English curriculum, and her career development credit. So it's a very holistic project that connected to multiple core and elective credits. Okay.
So,
we kind of talked about that.
yeah, this is really quick, but just to sort of show you how the week goes. So I talked about internship days being on Tuesday and Thursday, and Nancy talked a little bit about Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so we do have this structure of academic days on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and internship days on Tuesday and Thursday. And again, they do look very different depending on when you were to come by and see the school if you want to. If you come in on a Tuesday and Thursday, there might be 5 or 6 kids there. And they're the ones that are looking for a new internship because it ended. And a lot of times that's because they're just ready to try something new. They're ready to explore somewhere different. So that's sort of how our week looks. So assessment is a really important part of education, and one of the things that we do differently, actually I guess 2 of the things that we do, one is exhibitions, and our students are responsible for the provincial exams, and that's a question we commonly get. So in grade 12, they are writing English and math provincial exams. So along the way, they do get some experience test taking. We often give them an exam through math. As Nancy mentioned, we teach it a little bit more traditionally. They're seeing some English-based testing, and we definitely look at preparation for the English exam. But at the end of the terms, we're now on a trimester system, the students do an exhibition. And it starts in grade 9 at about 30 minutes, and that includes a question answer period. But basically at the end of a trimester, they've worked for 3 months, and they've done something totally different than everybody else in the school because of that school-based project and because of that internship. And so they have to prepare a presentation for their peers. We invite their parents. We in fact schedule around their parents because we want their parents to be there. We invite their mentors from their internships and really anybody else that wants to come. And they present what have they been doing for the last 3 months. And more importantly than that, they present what have they been learning for the last 3 months. They have to talk about why they chose the things they chose, what they got out of it, and where it's going to take them next. So they start at about 30 minutes, but by the time they graduate, most of them are doing 90-minute presentations, and some of them are begging for more time. 90 minutes isn't enough. And that's really incredible, because when they come in, it's pretty common for a student to say, I can't present in front of the school, I can't do that. And by grade 12, they're so comfortable speaking in front of people that 90 minutes just feels like nothing to them. And we've had many of our grads come back and speak. We've had many of our grads keep in touch with us because of that relationship that we've built. And all of my grads that have moved on to work or post-secondary education or wherever they are have thanked me for the confidence that they've gotten from the exhibition process and how easy it's made some of their things that they've had to do in university or college. So they really celebrate their successes, and it's pretty exciting. Students sign up for them. They decide whose they want to go to and what they want to watch. And we make sure that the audiences are mixed grade as well, because there's interests that people share in the school and might not even recognize. And so they go to each other's exhibitions and learn about a cool project that maybe they want to try themselves or tweak a little bit. Or maybe they find out about an internship experience that was really awesome and they want an opportunity for that experience as well. So we make sure that the students recognize what everybody in the school is doing and that the parents are involved in all of that. We also do portfolios. So at the end of each trimester, our students put together a portfolio of work. These look different depending on which advisory you walk into. I have in the past used a program called Moxtra. My students are all doing digital portfolios. I'm going to be getting them to make websites this year for their portfolios. Often students do physical binder portfolios deciding what to put in them, and they walk away with these really big 3-inch binders that they're needing to decide what to pull out of because they have too much work to fit into that binder. So we use the exhibition presentation and the portfolio of work at the end of the trimesters to really assess how the quarter went, and they need to be able to speak to that as well. Yeah, either one.
I just wanted to add about that exhibition piece. One of the things when our students come in grade 9 and they have to do that first exhibition in December, they're freaking out, right? I mean, this is a public presentation. You know, you have the odd couple who are very comfortable with it right from the get-go, but majority of the kids, like, public speaking is nerve-wracking for most people. So now we've had 4 graduating classes of the Met School so far. And what we do at our graduation is we have, you know, the valedictorian, but instead of having one person be valedictorian, we have each member of our advisory take part in the valedictory address. And these are to big groups of people, right? Over 100 people who are coming to our graduation ceremonies. So every single Met School graduate has gotten up and spoke at our graduation convocations event. And not one of them has backed out. There's been some nerves, but at the end of the day, every single one of them has stepped up and taken part in that. So I just think that, you know, doing those public speaking, you know, right from grade 9 has really helped our students in just so many ways in that confidence piece. So we're just going to start kind of summarizing here. So some of the things that you come to the Met School for, it's really the best of both worlds, and that's largely because we have this amazing partnership with Garden City across the street. Academic excellence. We've had 4 graduating classes. We have a number of students right now on major scholarships to different universities around the city. The Anna McDonald, the filmmaker, she got a $10,000 scholarship. So we're now able to, you know, prove to people in the division, in the city, the Department of Education, that we are graduating really knowledgeable students, and they're engaging in the curriculum just like other students, but just in a different way. Career exploration, so they tend to have a pretty good sense of what they want to do by the time they graduate. Funnily enough, one of my students who wanted to be a digital designer, all of her internships were all about doing digital drawing and digital work, and her final internship was with a graphic design studio. They helped her develop her portfolio for Red River College. She got into this really difficult program to get into straight out of high school, which almost never happens. She did it for 6 months, and then she transferred to culinary arts. But you know what? You just never know, right, where life is going to take you. Because she decided that she liked doing that for her own pleasure and for her own fun, and she didn't want to make a career out of it because it was taking some of the fun out of this artistic side of her. So now she's in the culinary arts. So that was really came out of left field. But she's happy, and that's what matters. So the interest-based projects, the hands-on learning, the real-world experience, your advisory, and your lasting friendships. Yeah, that's why you come to the Met School. I think there's one more slide. Okay, so successful Met School students, and I think this is a really important piece and something that we've been trying to change the perception of who comes to the Met School. That first book that we showed you, the big picture that they wrote, Elliot and Dennis, the initial student population that they were dealing with in Rhode Island were students who had really disengaged in school. They had dropped out. They were trying to get them to come back to school. It was a disenfranchised group of people. So what happened before they opened the Met School here in Winnipeg, the superintendent had given out this book to every teacher in the school division, and they read it. So then they thought that our school was really just for kids who had already dropped out or who were at risk or who had different special needs. And so in those first few years, we really had to prove that we weren't just a school for kids with those kinds of needs, that we're really a school for anyone. And when you look at us now, 7 years later, we've really been able to establish that fact. And we have a real diverse population of students who come to the Met School, and they come for a variety of different reasons. So we have some students, yes, who come because they're at risk in some way, or maybe they have some special needs of some sort. For example, one of our students is extremely dyslexic. So the idea of coming to Met School, the smaller class sizes, that really appeal to him and his family. But we have some students who come who are super high achievers. You know, they're on the 90% and over honor roll. They've chosen to come to the Met School because they know that they're going to be able to take their learning from here to here. They're going to be able to do projects that they would never have the opportunity to do in a regular high school. We do have students that come because of they might have some anxiety issues. So the thought of going to one of these mega high schools in the city of 1,400 kids is just way too overwhelming. So coming to a small school of 120 kids really appeals to them. But our student population really is a cross-section of just the general population. From high achievers to the kids who really don't know what they want to do, and they've come to the Met School because they feel like they want to figure out what they want to do with their life. And they might have 5 or 6 different internships in a year in a cross-section of fields that are not connected at all. But by the time they graduate, hopefully they have a better sense of what they want to do. But because of all that, and because of the way our school is structured, there are some key characteristics that will make a Met School student successful. That they're passionate, driven, curious, self-motivated, independent, enthusiastic, organized, and creative. And that independence piece is really a key one. Right from grade 9, they have to take the bus and go to their internship, get themselves to and from. Now we help them in developing those skills. We don't just kick them out on the first day of school and say, here you go. But they do have to be very, very independent. And that curiosity piece is a really big one. They have to have passions that they want to explore and that they want to figure out what they want to do. All right. So I guess we're at the end of our presentation. Not being able to play those clips were a little bit earlier than we had anticipated. So I think we have 2 options that we can do right now. I don't know if we can kind of get off of this and get on YouTube to show the clips, or we can just send you the clips later and we can open it up for Q&A.
And one thing, sorry, I'll grab this.
Yeah.
One thing to add, just with the videos in mind, a couple of things we were going to show you. One was one of Elliot Washer's videos from that Leaving to Learn book, and that's on YouTube and something that you can find if you just Google Leaving to Learn. The other clip was a story that was done on one of our students at internship at Rainbow Stage that Shaw TV did. But as Nancy mentioned earlier, we've really started putting ourselves out there on social media, and we've got an awesome Facebook page, and I really encourage all of you to go to it, just because we have some really awesome, not just images of what's going on in the day, but we put student work up there, and you can see some of the things that are happening. One of our students was just featured in the Manitoba Teacher, and a couple of our students just made a documentary about our school that just went up there, and there's some really, really neat things to pay attention to on there. So if you do want to see some of the videos that we weren't able to show you, you can find them there. Seven Oaks Met School is the page name, yeah.
And the video is 10 Expectations.
10 Expectations is the Leaving to Learn video. It's called 10 Expectations. And it's a video that really describes what students expect to get out of school and the top 10 expectations that students have on their education. And it really speaks to what students feel education should be about, and we feel that we're really addressing those expectations naturally with the way that we provide them with an education. Any questions? Lots of questions.
Criteria for admission.
Yeah, I'll let you take that one.
All right. The question was about the criteria for admission. So right now, how it works is every year in starting this year, every year in grade 9, we'll have 30 spots open because we'll be we're in our own space now, and we have all of our rooms so that we can continue to grow. There are a number of things. Okay, so if a student wants to come to the Met School, there are a variety of things that they have to do. We ask for the student to write a letter saying why they want to come. Like, why do they think this is a good fit for them? What are their passions? What are their interests? And we ask them to submit their best piece of work. So it might be a poem that they've written. It might be a piece of art that they've drawn. It could be a video they've made, and they could put it a USB in their application. It could be something they've built. It can, whatever. The thing that they've created that they are the most proud of. So we can see where they're at, where their interests are, what their level of kind of commitment is to the things that they're passionate about. We also ask that parents write a letter explaining why they think it's a good fit for their child as a learner, why they think it's a good fit for their family. One of the things with Met School is that that relationship piece means that the parents need to be involved. They can't just be on the sidelines. At minimum, they're expected to come into the school 3 times a year to watch their students' exhibitions. We also have a family barbecue at the beginning of the year. We have a mentor appreciation barbecue. We have lots of things throughout the year where our families are involved. So it's really not the kind of school where parents, we don't want parents to be standoff, right? We want them to be engaged with their child's learning. And then they have to submit the application form and the report card. So right now, because we've been in a growth phase still, we've been able to accept most of the students who've applied because we've been still growing every year. So we'll have to cross that bridge in about a year when we're kind of at capacity and kind of seeing how that goes. We do have a wait list for some of our, like grade 9, 10, and 11 right now has a wait list. So you had a question? Yeah.
Sure, Daryl Gervais from Manitoba Education.
Hi.
So it sounds great for the kids that are involved.
Yeah.
So what are the limiting factors for it not expanding into the larger collegiates? You mentioned that this is 120 students versus the 1,400. So if it's a good idea, what's keeping it from going viral across all the high schools? Because we've talked about the need to change high schools and education for the last 20 years.
Yeah. Did you want to? Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I could.
Sure.
Sure. So, I mean,
Don't forget to repeat.
Oh, right. Yes. So the question was, what's preventing this idea from going a little bit more viral? If we recognize that we need some change in education, and our school is 120 students amongst high schools that hold 1,400, why is this not being picked up? And I think, I think there's a variety of reasons why it's not being picked up, and some of that is. To be completely honest, some of it is family involvement. It's scary to send your student to this environment. I mean, education's been one way for how many years, and it's pretty scary to say, okay, we're going to trust you to do it totally differently, but they're going to walk out and get something even better. And so in the beginning, that growth phase, like, it's been really challenging just to get families on board. And I think as we've graduated classes and as we've seen the successes and the scholarships and the post-secondary opportunities, that's starting to become a little bit more apparent. We are starting to hear a lot about other schools being interested. We've presented at other school divisions. We've had media coverage from all across Canada. And I don't know why it hasn't just taken off, but we are getting a lot of interest. We're getting a lot of people coming to us and saying, okay, tell us a little bit more about this. And in fact, there are a lot of teachers that are doing elements of this. There's a lot of teachers that recognize how awesome some of the projects can be, and we know some teachers that are teaching in a traditional classroom doing school-based project type things, but aren't able to do the internship piece. And so we're seeing elements of it appear in lots of different places. As to why it's not taking off, I mean, I don't know if you want to add a little bit.
I think certainly in the States, it has been expanding quite rapidly. The network has been growing quite quickly, and there are a number of other philosophies in the States that are kind of similar, not necessarily big picture exactly, but have been growing. Within our school division, it looks like we will be opening up a second Met School in the near future. I believe right now the talk is it'll be housed out of Maples Collegiate. So certainly it's something that our division is fully on board and supporting. Another thing that they're looking at doing is kind of what you've touched on. So right now within Garden City Collegiate, we've been working with some of the administrators there. How can we incorporate some of the elements of this philosophy into a larger high school? So they're looking at doing like a semestered internship credit where, it's not just a work experience, but more towards like how we do it with internships. And that's something that we're kind of sitting down and trying to figure out how can you do this when you have 1,400 kids, and having more cross-curricular, holistic projects. So, but I think there are challenges. One of the reasons it works well for us is the small class sizes. So when you have a school of 1,500 kids, the large populations, and trying to find internships out in the community, you know, if every school did it this way, it would be challenging. So, does that answer your question? Yeah.
Any other questions?
Are we done? We're done. We're out of time. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
So thank you very much, Nancy and David. Very interesting and informative presentation. And on behalf of Mern, I'd like you to accept our souvenir of your presentation.
Thank you. Solid. Take that. Thanks.
Why is it called a med school?
Oh.
So when it started 20 years ago, they were in the Metropolitan Regional Career and Technical Center, which is a mouthful. And I didn't realize we were
No,
still on.
I think it's done.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well,